Breaking news. President Donald J. Trump has taken a bold stand to tackle the surge of illegal drugs crossing the northern border, declaring a national emergency that many say is long overdue. But here's where it gets controversial. He has now increased tariffs on Canada from 25% to 35%, effective August 1, 2025, aiming to pressure Canada to act decisively. This move has sparked intense debate about trade versus security priorities. Shortly after resuming office, President Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, to address the growing public health emergency caused by the influx of fentanyl and other illicit substances coming into the United States from Canada. Despite ongoing warnings and diplomatic efforts, Canada has not stepped up cooperation to halt this dangerous flow. Instead, the Canadian government retaliated against the U.S. for these emergency measures, actions the Trump administration views as a failure to confront a grave national threat. Due to Canada's apparent inaction and retaliatory trade responses, President Trump felt compelled to raise tariffs from 25% to 35% to more effectively tackle the escalating emergency. However, it's important to note that products qualifying for favorable tariff treatment under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, remain exempt from these new IEEPA tariffs. Furthermore, any attempts to reroute goods through third countries to dodge the 35% tariff will face an even steeper 40% transshipment tariff. This crackdown aims to close loopholes that smugglers or traders might exploit. Digging deeper, Canada's ongoing involvement in the opioid crisis has raised serious alarms. Despite the staggering human toll, Canadian authorities have been criticized for not arresting sufficient traffickers, seizing enough illicit drugs, or collaborating effectively with U.S. law enforcement to stop the flow of deadly narcotics. Meanwhile, Mexican drug cartels have reportedly expanded their operations by setting up fentanyl and nitazene synthesis labs right on Canadian soil. Recent research reveals that Canada is not just a transit country, but also a growing producer of fentanyl, with super labs predominantly in rural and densely wooded western regions. Some of these facilities can manufacture between 44 to 66 pounds of fentanyl weekly, a scale that is deeply concerning. Data shows that fentanyl seizures at the northern border this fiscal year, still 2 months from ending, have already exceeded the total amount seized in the past 3 years combined. To grasp the potential human cost, these seizures represent enough fentanyl to kill over 16 million Americans, given the drug's extreme potency. Furthermore, President Trump insists that putting America first means taking decisive measures to stop the drug flood and the resulting tragic loss of lives. Last November, he made clear his intention to impose tariffs on imports from both Mexico and Canada until they addressed what he described as ridiculous open borders. This promise was followed up in February with Executive Order 14193, which imposed a 25% duty on Canadian imports in response to the National Emergency Declaration. Despite these warnings and opportunities provided to Canada, the president determined in March that Canada had failed to meaningfully reduce cartel activity and drug inflows. Consequently, the tariff was imposed, and now, with further evidence of Canada's insufficient action and continued evasions, the tariff has been raised yet again to 35%. This escalation invites a critical question. Is using tariffs an effective way to combat cross-border drug crises? Or does it risk damaging important trade relations and cooperation? Some argue that increased tariffs might harden Canada's stance rather than prompt collaboration, while others believe stronger economic pressures are necessary to protect American lives. What do you think? Is this tough stance justified, or could it backfire in the long run? The conversation is wide open, and your voice matters. Feel free to share your perspective below.